Welcome back, everyone. Our next session will be a panel discussion exploring building digitally connected infrastructure in MEA. This session will be moderated by Mr. Earl Hepsidier, Technical Director at Consultants in the United Kingdom. I'd like to remind our audience that they can send their questions using the chat feature, and if there is time, Earl will do his best to address them. Can I now invite all our speakers to join us for the session? Earl, over to you.
Thank you very much, Leon. I think we can turn on the videos, yes, and the speakers as well. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. There's a great session here. I will just start with an introduction and then we go into the discussions. Today, different countries or authorities are funding projects to enable every home and business to access fast and reliable digital connectivity in their countries, such as Project Gigabit in the UK, and Europe has similar schemes. Middle East is one of the leading regions in digital infrastructure, such as 5G and automation and digital transformation. This comes with challenges and, of course, regulatory obstacles or maybe support. Of course, the opportunity is there as well. My name is Errol Hepsider, and I am the moderator for this panel. I have over 30 years of mobile communications experience in several countries. In this panel, we will be discussing challenges, opportunities, regulatory framework, maybe obstacles, and the key stakeholders to build national digital infrastructure in MEA region. We have a great, distinguished, diverse panelists from operators and a vendor in the region, Middle East region, Abdurrahman Al-Humaydan, Yasser Al-Obaidan, and Rakesh Lakhani. My apologies if I pronounce it differently. I will hand over to each panelist to introduce himself. I can start with Yasser yourself, and then we continue with other panelists. Over to you, Yasser, to introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Errol. Yes, so it's Yasser Al-Obaidan. That's the pronunciation. I'm chairman of Jawra as a digital company, and also CEO for a new MVNO player in Saudi, and also founder of previous MVNOs around the region, from Tunisia all the way to Oman. So pleased to be here.
Thank you. Abdurrahman, over to you.
Thanks, Errol. I'm Abdurrahman Al-Hamidan, Senior Director of Fixed Access Network Planning and Design in Etisalat UAE. I'm looking after the GPON and access network and FTTX rollout across UAE in Etisalat. Pleased to be here.
Thank you, Abdurrahman. Rakesh?
Errol, thank you so much. My name is Rakesh Lakhani. I'm working with Ericsson, based out of Dubai. I have approximately 25 years of work experience in the telecom field, started with an operator and been working in different countries in Ericsson, in Middle East headquarters, in India and all. My responsibilities are I'm working as head of network solutions. When we call network solutions, radio and transport. So I'm head of network solutions for Middle East and Africa.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rakesh. I think just to kick off the panel, Abdurrahman, can I just ask you actually, just to elaborate a bit on introducing if you can introduce the opportunities and challenges of building digitally connected national infrastructure in Middle East region. How does, if any, shared network infrastructure play a role, if any? Any support from governments or authorities? If you can just elaborate a little bit on those, please.
Sure, Errol. So at Etisalat, if I may start, I believe we have great potential and opportunity in that. especially with the shared networks. We do believe that it plays a major role in building the national infrastructure and has proven to be beneficial for all. We look at it from a win-win-win perspective. So we think that it's a win for us, win for maybe the competitor, and we even a win for the customer. We think that by bringing or using a shared infrastructure approach, operators can bring the investment down so that they can use the savings in further enhancing and expanding their networks by increasing their footprints and reaching to other customers as well. And by doing that, additional customers can, benefit from the new technologies, the advanced new technologies, and the footprint of the operators. From challenge perspective, I think we are facing one main challenge, is that when we do shared infrastructure, the shared parties or the sharing parties, the operators, need to be at all times at par in terms of technological advancement. They always need to be together when they deploy new technologies, new solutions. There will be a fierce competition there. Not only that, the competition even extends to the sales and marketing area. By shared infrastructure, the footprint will be identical somehow. For more pressure will be on the sales and marketing side for the operators to provide the best customer, let's say, offers and experience. Maybe I would like to share some examples of infrastructure sharing that we are using in UAE. We have in the FTTH domain mainly, we have two types of sharing. We have for the greenfield and for the brownfield. Brownfield is mainly for the existing areas where the incumbent is available or a particular operator is available. In this scenario or in the brownfield, there is already some agreements that we have to share the infrastructure, and a competitor or the newcomer can use this infrastructure to lay his own infrastructure and fiber footprint and to connect his customers. The other scenario we have is for the greenfield, where we have a frame agreement with the operators that we build the infrastructure jointly and share the cost. So it reduces the let's say the investment on one party, and it is shared between the two parties. This is, I would say, these are the main points in this regard.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Abdurrahman. How about yourself, actually, from a different country perspective point of view?
Yeah, so there are a number of points that mentioned by Abdurrahman, but let me rephrase today. There are two types of infrastructure or shared network and shared infrastructure. Network could be wireless, it could be wired. So we need to look at this from a perspective. And we have seen a lot of work, I mean, in Europe, in US, in Canada, even in Saudi now, is the closed local loop, which is the last mile access for fixed infrastructure. This convert the competition to focus on a customer-centric rather than infrastructure-centric. Today, if you go wireless, it's all about, it's more or less, there's the perception that this network has a better coverage than the other one. But this is not anymore valid because most of the operators have built the entire coverage across. It's about the services that you are offering. So it is a good idea to have one investment on one infrastructure and share it. And this, when we go on a shared network, then breaking down that physical infrastructure to multiple, because now you have a wavelength and a license, and you can divide it. Because what we see in the entire Middle East, when we look at mobile infrastructure, the utilization of that spectrum is less than 70%. So which gives you an opportunity to bring new virtual operators to access and provide. When we look at fixed infrastructure, a closed local loop will provide a customer-centric perspective with shared last mile access. And this means you need to compete on providing a better service rather than providing the last mile, because that is a one-time thing that you can go into a green field, but it's not going to be there for a very long time. So regulation is very important in here to enhance and regulate that and make sure that whoever did the initial investment has a supporting business case to have a good return of investment. So I look at it in three different areas: the reach, the cost, and the return of investment. Reach is the last mile, where whoever does the investment has to have a valid case, and the more he share it, should have a faster return of investment. The cost of that, if it's shared, then it will be excellent because they reduce their costs, where concerns apply on security, concerns apply on the operation, who will operate that network, especially when you look at shared towers and so forth. But it's a very interesting area, and now it's becoming a must for operators to survive, to go and join forces to build a common network, especially on the last mile, and focus on the last, the services. In Saudi, in terms of mobile infrastructure, we have seen a lot of investment and agreement recently, a couple of months ago, between Mobile and Zain, where they said we will do a shared services. In terms of fixed, we have seen it since 2004 when Mobile, ITC, and another company did a consortium to jointly build the Saudi fiber network, FNC, and that created a much faster return of investment for everyone. So a $1 billion investment is better to be shared across 3 operators than instead of one taking care of all the costs.
Totally agree. Thank you, Yasser. I think the shared infrastructure and shared network is becoming quite big topic. It has been around, the concept, for a long time, but I think it's taking more and more attraction nowadays. And you're absolutely right. Return of investment is the key one.
Yeah, if I can add on to this, if you permit, if I can add on into this, I mean, shared network, as correctly mentioned by Mr. Yasser, is that we need to see from a shared infrastructure, which is the passive infrastructure sharing, and then the active sharing, which is the basically sharing the radio, etc. Correct. And here probably I would like to bring in one more point, which Mr. Abdul Rahman also touched upon, is that, I mean, when we, of course, there's no denial that a shared network and shared infrastructure will save money for everyone, correct? And it will bring in services faster. But also at the same time, we also need to think that in the main cities, operators are competing each other on performance. And that's why they are bringing a lot of innovations for the end users, right? So we need to see that we get the best of both the worlds. So we get the best of network sharing advantage, as well as we get best of the performance differentiation in the main cities. So I think one of the use case of active network sharing would be connect the unconnected. So you have the performance differentiation in the main cities with internal networks, and in the outskirts where the business case is unviable, where there you can use the active sharing and provide the countrywide fantastic 5G services.
Yeah. I think you're right. Actually, there are different types of sharing networks, and depending on the region or area, one may make a difference to the other one. You might make a decision on what type of sharing. Even if you do sharing in large cities, you may not like the. But again, it is all return of investment and operators' view on sharing with different strategies, I guess. Rakesh, just when we are here, actually, since it's, would you like to elaborate a little bit on the spectrum? Spectrum is a limited resource, and it is an enabler for larger capacity and better user experience. Instead of a new site, new build, new antennas, this is also a challenge. And what do you think the situation in Middle East for 5G spectrum allocation at the moment?
Yeah, I must say that Middle East is leading when it comes to 5G. Right?
Mhm.
I mean, what we have seen is that I just share with you one interesting example. This morning, I got a call from a mature European country, and the question was asked by one of the operator there, is that how you in Middle East you have utilized 2.3 and 2.6 gigahertz of spectrum. So that's what is happening in Middle East. Middle East is leading from the front, and I must say that the operators as well as the regulator have done a fantastic job here. I mean, before I come to 5G, if I take about the FDD spectrum, they have ensured that the operators get 50 to 100 megahertz in FDD spectrum. It's absolutely technology neutral. They have utilized all possible bands, 700, 800, 900, everything. When it comes to mid-band for 5G, I mean, very judicious allocation. They have utilized 2.3, 2.6, and then C-band, which is 3.5 gigahertz. And they have ensured that as the first step, every operator or everyone gets 100 megahertz of spectrum. Mm-hmm. And now they are going to give another carrier. I mean, we have seen that in certain countries, another 100 megahertz is being given. And operators are also even thinking beyond it. And in one of the countries, the regulator is thinking of allocating 3.8 to 4.0 gigahertz of spectrum. So I would say a fantastic job has been done, because we all know that the spectrum is the lifeline, correct? And the spectrum is the backbone for any operator, correct? So until unless we give them ammunition, until unless we give operators ammunition, how can they provide the quality service, best performing network? And again, the result of that is pretty visible. I shared with you an example. And if you have seen the 5G performance benchmarking of different major cities, some of the Middle Eastern cities are Mr. Abdul Rahman would agree with me, that some of the Middle Eastern cities are in the top 5. I mean, this is a fantastic example of how operators and regulators have worked together, how there's a common vision of the government, operator, regulator to serve the end users better, to develop the entire country infrastructure together towards digital transformation.
Excellent.
So that's on the very, very good side. I think where we probably could do a bit more, or I think on the millimeter wave. Millimeter wave is the journey has started, but I think if we can expedite it, that will further help. That's my opinion.
Right. Thank you very much, Rakesh. When you just touch regulatory frameworks as well, and yes, sir. What do you think about the investment and regulatory frameworks in Middle East? That I think it is crucial for operators to deploy infrastructure and expand their networks. What do you think in this topic?
I do believe that without regulatory, we would have not reached that level of maturity and competing globally. For example, Saudi and UAE are, top 10 listed countries around the world in terms of speed and utilizing of spectrum. Saudi is number 2 in the world after Japan. And this wouldn't happen if there's no proper plan of reallocating some spectrums to be used and utilized by the telecom operators, and especially within the 5G network. So this is one. In terms of reach, I think also CITC did a great work a few years ago where they incentivized mobile operators to go into the rural areas to cover them with 4G and 5G, and that will be deducted from the tax or the CITC fees that is usually being deducted by the regulator. A lot of things have been done to incentivize. A lot of things have been done to regulate and to take more spectrums and to make a more utilization of that data and services. And this is the result of it. Is today we are number 1 in the G20. We are number 2 globally, and UAE and Saudi and many other Arab countries now leading the telecom sector globally, especially in the 5G network.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. Yes, sir. I just would like to open the floor to any questions at this stage. Is there any questions from the audience?
As of not yet, Earl, there are no questions at the moment, so just continue on with the discussion.
Sure, sure. Okay, yeah. When we come to the national infrastructure, one of the important technologies today is 5G, and we heard that actually Middle East is leading in that technology, and quite rightly. And the speeds and is incredible, and the deployment is full speed. As we just heard, there is some quite a bit regulatory support as well, working together to enable this. This is fantastic. So, Rakesh, coming back to you again, how about the impact of 5G in digital, national digital infrastructure as a 5G network? How fast can operators roll out their 5G? Deployment is a major topic here because of new antennas, big massive MIMOs antennas, and new sites because of maybe coverage issues. What benefits can 5G bring to national infrastructure once deployed? Can you just elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I mean, you have asked a very valid question, that how can we deploy 5G fast, right? Because there's of course time to market associated with these things. So here our submission is that what is needed. Let's go back and see that what is needed for 5G. Right? You need hardware, you need software, you need the spectrum. Right? And of course, then the second question comes: where do we need 5G? I mean, do you need the 5G only at the hotspots where you need big capacities, or you need in the entire country, or in the entire major city? I mean, and of course, all of the answers to all these questions will have a big impact on operators' financials, right? I mean, you can of course build a fantastic 5G network by deploying massive MIMO in the entire country. That will give you fantastic performance. That might be aligned with your growth plan, but it might be a bit expensive for an operator. So what's the judicial option that you can get the best optimum performance, you can get the best returns also, and you can at the same time have citywide coverage as well. And here I would like to share one example, Errol, is, I mean, what is the killer service of 5G as of now? Enhanced mobile broadband is the first one, correct? Of course, on top of fixed broadband and on top of your ultra reliable low latency communication, all those services are on top. But if we talk about today's killer services, is enhanced mobile broadband and fixed broadband. And as per our analysis, we tried to analyze a few countries, and we think that by 2024 or even 2023 end, we believe that the 5G smartphones will exceed 4G. Right? Now, if 5G smartphones exceed 4G, you of course need to have a citywide good 5G coverage. And that's where our submission to the operators is that they need to utilize their existing infrastructure, which they have built for 4G, for 5G as well. So what they should do, they should deploy, as you have mentioned yourself regarding massive MIMO, etc. So they should deploy massive MIMO at the hotspots where they need the capacity, where they need the performance. And but at the same time, deploying massive MIMO in the entire city might be practically not possible. So what you should do, but at the same time, you need coverage, because you have in 2023 you have more 5G smartphones, right? So you need coverage, but you want to go for a gradual deployment. Yet at the same time, you will want a full carpet 5G coverage. So what's the best solution? And that's what we call as best utilization of the existing equipment. So you deploy 5G massive MIMO equipment where you need the capacity, where you need the performance, where you need the additional bandwidth advantage. And then in rest of the places, you start utilizing your existing 4G spectrum, with existing 4G equipment for 5G also, right? Yeah. So you will have 5G everywhere, and gradually, and there are some countries who have done this absolutely very, very well, so that they have a countrywide 5G. And now they are expanding their massive MIMO to the entire country. So I think the first step is that deploy MEA MIMO where you need to start with. Utilize your 4G infrastructure, which you have built, FDD spectrum, which you have for 5G. Get a citywide coverage, and then keep expanding your MEA MIMO coverage. That's what our submission.
Thank you very much, Rakesh. Abdurrahman, how about from your view, actually, 5G's benefits? What benefits can 5G bring to national infrastructure, digital infrastructure?
Okay, so before I touch on that, Errol, I just want to maybe briefly comment on what Mr. Rakesh has mentioned. The rollout strategy for 5G, as mentioned by Mr. Rakesh, it's not only about 5G itself, but the 5G ecosystem. The demand for 5G has to, move along with the deployment strategy of the operator. Yani, 5G is not something that may be similar to its predecessors as 4G or 3G. 5G is coming with much more functionalities and possibilities. It's let's say an enabler for IoT. IoT is one of the main, I think, platforms that will drive 5G deployment further. We have smart city deployments, smart cameras. We have smart metering. So it's now 5G is it will not let's say the speed of deploying 5G, I think, will be very much correlated with how fast the use cases of 5G develop. The faster the use cases develop, the faster you'll be seeing operators pushing more on 5G. That is from an ecosystem perspective. From let's say from a pure technical point of view, I think Mr. Rakesh touched very clearly on the 2 points. So we think that from a technical perspective, 5G deployment is mainly, let's say, the speed of the 5G deployment governed by two main technical things. Fiber infrastructure, in order to backhaul the 5G sites and to provide the required bandwidth to support the 5G sites, and the main thing, which is the tower, let's say the tower infrastructure. So if we have a solid tower infrastructure that was built in a strategic way that already has some capacity to handle the 5G deployment, whether we talk about new antennas, MIMO antennas, additional 5G antennas, this definitely will help in increasing the speed of deployment of 5G in the network. But alhamdulillah, as I think you can see the logo that I'm using, we were alhamdulillah one of the first countries to launch the 5G network, and alhamdulillah we had a solid strategy to push 5G as soon as possible to the market. And this translated to this declaration that we, as Etisalat, are now the fastest network on Earth. These are the points that I wanted to share with you here.
Thank you very much. I think before we go to the final words, there is a question here. Actually, it's quite interesting. How do you think automation can be leveraged to better deliver 5G services to customers? There's a lot of discussions around automation, digital transformation, and what is the status of this automation in your operations? If we start with Yasser, if you don't mind.
Yes, thank you. Automation is part of digital transformation, and digital transformation means connectivity. And the big concerns during the 3G and 5G era, the 3G and 4G, is how reliable is the network. And that's why there was no movement of connected devices. Today, with the use of 5G, there are a number of things that we can benefit from. One, high-speed network. Two, accuracy in specifying the speed and quality of that connected device. So it is reliable service. It could be used for connected cars. It could be used for any type of automation. So we will see a rapid growth in the automation area, especially in manufacturing and connected cars, connected devices, M2M in general. And going to the last mile, for example, smart meters in electricity, water, and so forth, they could now depend on 5G as a reliable source of integrating and providing data, accurate data at the time that is needed, and to be all connected at all time.
Thank you very much. Abdurrahman, would you like to add to SRs for automation point of view?
Well, I think Mr. Isar, he covered the full thing. I just want to maybe highlight that 5G as a new network is coming with a completely new model, at least for us in Etisalat. It is coming with a promise of, let's say, autonomous operation and autonomous provisioning and service delivery. So this is something that maybe we are capitalizing in with 5G. We have built 5G with an advanced level of automation, which is to become autonomous network, I would say. That is maybe with respect to 5G.
Thank you very much. Okay, if we move to my last question actually to discuss. Oh, sorry, Rakesh, would you like to add anything on the automation side?
No, I mean, we fully understand that will be an absolute must when it comes to 5G, because the networks are getting complex. We are talking about hundreds of megahertz of spectrum. So we fully understand the importance of it. That's why Ericsson has been putting a lot of focus on self-organizing networks, etc., those functionalities, so that exactly as has been asked in the question, that we can provide the 5G services in limited time to the wider geography.
Thank you. Sorry for that. And so, how about actually rolling out connectivity effectively? I mean, to roll out a connectivity, it requires a commitment from all stakeholders. Is this commitment present in Middle East? But we heard actually previously that regulators are working hand in hand with operators. There's a good system moving forward. What do you think, actually? Abdurrahman, if we can start with you, if it is okay.
Yeah, sure, Ron. So I'll be a bit brief. And this is maybe a long
oh, yes.
Question, but again, we're back to let's say the ecosystem itself. And now, one of the main things that we're highlighting here in order to push the digital infrastructure rollout is basically by showing the stakeholders the value of this digital infrastructure. And it's maybe a good example that we are facing currently now is with the education sector. So I think everybody has witnessed during this COVID pandemic that the education sector has integrated more with the digital community. And in order to provide distance learning and continue the learning experience, we have seen that one of the main stakeholders, which is the education sector, really now pushing for the digital, the digital rollout or the digital infrastructure. This is one very important example, and we can see even from the news that, or we can compare any countries or schools or universities who are much more advanced in terms of digital capability, had the chance to survive and to sustain their operations, even with similar level of operation that was pre the pandemic, while others had a very limited chance. I think this is one of the main drivers for stakeholders to see the advantage of the digital infrastructure. And I believe that post-pandemic, one of the main drivers will be, of course, the education. And I think health will be one really pushing to further expand the digital infrastructure in those two domains and sectors.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir, would you like to add to Abdurrahman?
Yeah, so I believe that following up with what Abdurrahman said, the COVID crisis was a stress test to the network infrastructure, whether you have built a good infrastructure or not, because the unusual becomes usual. What I mean is unusual is having an online school for kids. Now it becomes a usual thing after 1 year. So we have stress tested many industries, not only education. We have stress tested the logistics system, the delivery system, the education, the healthcare system, and many have been either interrupted or disrupted. But either way, we had to change. Digital transformation is not a telecom, because telecom or connectivity is an enabler, but the automation and the utilization of that is the crucial part on how to automate it and how to build systems and ecosystems around it. That is the key thing. So today, in Saudi, we have seen a lot of investments coming in to disrupt the food industry with, for example, C3 coming to Saudi this year. We have seen a lot of last mile delivery coming in and investing and raising funds. We have seen education system being disrupted and building a lot of platforms online to provide schooling. Similarly with education, with healthcare, and not only that, but the entire government ecosystem today is in Saudi and UAE and so forth had been gone digital. So all your services for government are now using the digital platforms. And beside that, also we have the supporting services like Netflix and Amazon and so forth. All these are ecosystems have been accelerated because of the COVID, because we had to go and sit at home, and we need to continue our life and lifestyle. And whoever invested before the COVID on a proper infrastructure have, enabled that country or that city or that environment for innovation. And that's why we have seen a lot of innovations in Saudi and UAE and many of the GCC and the Middle East markets. A lot of innovations comes in, and it's like COVID have never happened. I mean, with all the sad stories we hear, but life continues with the same lifestyle that we have been doing before.
Yeah, you're right. Rakesh, we have got a question here. If you don't mind taking it, if you can, within a minute or so, if it is okay with you. We have got only 2 minutes left. It says actually, the question is actually, do you think it is profitable to combine both 5G and Wi-Fi 6 to achieve whatever 5G is supposed to deliver, high bandwidth, IoT, etc., but a lower cost by using Wi-Fi? Just within 1 minute, if you can.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty heavy question, but I just want to reflect on this. Is that 5G is one network for multiple applications? As Mr. Abdul Rahman mentioned, that it's not only about enhanced mobile broadband or fixed wireless access. So you are building one network for multiple applications. Point one. Point two, 5G is all about performance. So this is what it guarantees, and that's why it is enabling multiple applications, and that's the strength of 5G. One last thing is that I use Etisalat's 5G at my place instead of Wi-Fi. So that answers.
Okay, thank you very much. I think, just to wrap up very quickly within only 30 seconds, I think I would like to thank you for all panelists And it has been really great different views, diverse views from a vendor and very powerful operators in Middle East. And I would like to thank you. And Leon, it is over to you.
Thank you very much to our panelists, Abdul Rahman, Yasser and Rakesh, for offering us your insights throughout this interesting panel. And thank you, Earl, for leading the discussion this afternoon. To our audience members, please make your way to the next session where we will be discussing remote connectivity, developing the required infrastructure to support future remote working and living. We will see you there. Again, thank you to our speakers, and we hope to work with you again next year. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.